I don't see a lot of integrity and dignity, mutual respect out of the NFL. I got away from the NFL.
Roger Goodell is panicking as several NFL stars and prospects have been leaving and signing contracts with professional football leagues outside the NFL. It's to the point where team owners are worried, and it could soon spell doom for the entire league. Let's get into it. The players who left. It starts, as most football stories do, not with a headline, but with a quiet transaction that nobody outside of a specific front office would have noticed at the time. In 2022, Brandon Aubrey signed a contract with the Birmingham Stallions of the United States Football League. The USFL was a spring league. It had tried and failed before, in an earlier form, in the 1980s. Most NFL fans who thought about it at all thought of it the way they thought about most alternatives to the NFL, a place where dreams went to become something smaller than they started. Aubrey made 92% of his field goals in Birmingham. The following year, the Dallas Cowboys called. By 2025, Aubrey held the NFL record for the most career field goals made from 60 yards or longer, with 6. He had rewritten a statistical benchmark that had stood for decades at a position and in a game where no NFL team had given him a chance. The Cowboys extended him. He became, at that point, the highest paid kicker in the history of the league. What started as a USFL contract became the foundation for one of the most valuable kicker deals the NFL had ever handed out. At roughly the same time, Cavante Turpin was earning USFL MVP honors in that same league. He signed with the Cowboys in 2022. He became the first Cowboys player ever selected to the Pro Bowl as a designated return specialist and has now made 3 consecutive Pro Bowls. The pipeline was real. The 2024 season sharpened the picture. Jake Bates had no college football career. He signed with the Michigan Panthers of the United Football League, the product of the 2024 merger between the XFL and USFL, and made a 64-yard field goal as time expired in the season opener. The Detroit Lions were watching. That summer, Bates was a Lion. In his rookie NFL season, he connected on 26 of 29 field goals and 64 of 67 extra points for 142 total points, a new Lions franchise record, surpassing the legendary Jason Hanson. No college career, UFL contract, franchise record setter. Then came the players who had been inside the NFL and found themselves out. Garyon Conley was the Raiders' first-round pick in 2017. Selected 24th overall. Injuries and inconsistency ended his run. He went to the UFL's DC Defenders. In 2024, the New England Patriots signed him, a former first-round pick written off back in the NFL through spring football. Damon Arnett was the Raiders' first-rounder in 2020, 19th overall. His NFL career ended in controversy. In 2025, he signed with the UFL's Houston Roughnecks, rebuilt his profile, and was signed to the Houston Texans practice squad. 2 Raiders first-round picks, 2 UFL stints, 2 paths back. Hakeem Butler was a 4th-round pick of the Arizona Cardinals in 2018. He spent time with 5 different NFL teams across several years before landing in the UFL. In the 2024 UFL season, he led the league in receiving yards with 652, averaging 14.5 yards per reception on 45 catches and scoring 5 touchdowns. He earned all UFL honors. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed him shortly after. Perion Winfrey was a former 4th-round pick who used the 2025 UFL season with the Birmingham Stallions to rebuild his case. He was the only UFL player from the 2025 season to earn a spot on an opening day active NFL roster with the Dallas Cowboys. He was later waived, but the path from UFL training camp to NFL active roster on opening day had been walked. The precedent was set. Away from the UFL, the CFL was having parallel conversations. Trey Lance was the number 3 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. The San Francisco 49ers surrendered 3 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick to move up and take him. Injuries and the emergence of Brock Purdy ended his time in San Francisco. He was traded to the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys declined his option for 2025. He entered the offseason with no NFL deal. The Saskatchewan Roughriders of the CFL placed him on their negotiation list, the formal mechanism by which a CFL team stakes its claim on a player's negotiating rights should that player choose to come north. For a period, the number 3 pick of the 2021 NFL Draft was 1 phone call away from signing in Canada. He eventually signed a 1-year deal with the Los Angeles Chargers for 2025, but the moment in which he sat on that CFL list was not a rumor, it was a formal transaction. Chase Claypool was the 49th overall pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2020. In 58 career NFL games, he recorded 175 receptions for 2,261 yards and 13 touchdowns. Then came the Bears trade, the character concerns, the trade to Miami, and finally a stint in Buffalo that ended when he tore a ligament and tendon in his toe and was released in August 2024. He spent 2025 as a free agent. The Saskatchewan Roughriders communicated directly with him about a CFL move. He has not played professional football since that injury settlement. Shedeur Sanders, the fifth-round pick of the Cleveland Browns in 2025, was placed on the CFL negotiation list of the Toronto Argonauts. Max Duggan, who spent time with the Chargers and the UFL's St. Louis Battlehawks, was also there. Keaton Slovis, Diego Pavia, Ian Book, each on CFL lists, each in the orbit of a league that had become something more than a theoretical option. By August 2025, the UFL had announced that 44 players from its 2025 season had signed NFL contracts before training camp, and 102 Spring Football League players were on NFL rosters at the start of the 2025 season, drawn from the UFL's 2024 and 2025 cycles, and the predecessor XFL and USFL seasons before them. The pipeline ran in both directions. Players who left the NFL found homes in the UFL. Players who thrived in the UFL earned their way back. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, a set of owners was sitting with report cards they could not explain away. The report cards that shook the league. The NFL Players Association has been running, for several years now, one of the most quietly devastating pieces of player leverage in the history of professional sports labor relations. It is called the Team Report Card. It is, by design, a mirror held up to the face of every franchise in the league. 32 teams, evaluated by the very players who suit up in their colors, graded on everything from the quality of the food in the training facility, to the comfort of hotel mattresses on road trips, to how the owner himself is perceived by the locker room. For most fans, sitting in the stands on game day, it reads like a curiosity. For a free agent deciding where to put his name on the next contract, it is a weapon with a very specific target. The 2025 report card, which compiled responses from 1,695 players league-wide during the 2024 season, did not whisper its findings, it roared them. The Arizona Cardinals finished 32nd overall, dead last in the entire league in the assessments of the men who trained in their building, who ate in their cafeteria, who dressed in their locker room every single day. The Cardinals received an F- for the locker room, a D- for the training room, a D+ for the treatment of families, a D- for food and dining. And owner Michael Bidwill, a billionaire whose family has owned the franchise since 1932, a man whose name adorns the Bidwill family legacy in NFL history, received a D- from his own players. He ranked 30th out of 32 team owners in the ownership category. These were not the grievances of one disgruntled veteran buried at the bottom of the depth chart, mouthing off on his way out. These were the collective, documented, formally submitted verdict of the players who showed up for work in his building every morning. And the verdict read, like a building inspection that had failed on every floor. The Cardinals moved fast. Bidwill announced a plan to invest roughly $100 million over 3 years to build a new training facility. The organization said publicly that the timing of that announcement was not connected to the NFLPA grades. Let those two things sit next to each other. The players rated the facilities an F-, and then, within months, came a 9-figure commitment to rebuild those same facilities. Whatever language the front office chose to describe the sequence, the effect was impossible to miss. The grade came, the money followed. The only question left was whether anyone in that building was genuinely surprised. The Cardinals were not alone in the crosshairs. The New York Jets earned a rating for owner Woody Johnson that no man in a $3,000 suit wants attached to his name in a public document. Players gave Johnson an F, the lowest owner rating in the entire NFL at 558 out of 10. The specific complaints were not vague, they were surgical. Players said management had responded to the feedback from prior report cards by making conditions worse, cutting the food budget, failing to retain a long-time dietitian after poor food grades the year before. They described the franchise's problems as top-down. In the language of any professional workplace, top-down problems is a phrase that points directly at the person sitting at the top of the organization. When players describe a franchise that way, in writing, on an official survey, at a rate of nearly 1,100 respondents across the league, They are not just griping among themselves. They are broadcasting a warning to every free agent who checks the report before deciding whether to return the agent's call from that team's general manager. The Carolina Panthers brought their own fire. Players continued to cite owner David Tepper's use of turf instead of grass as a cost-saving measure, and complained that a new coaching staff had moved players from first-class airplane seats to coach during travel. The turf complaint was not new. The plain seats complaint was. Taken individually, each of these things sounds like the kind of locker room grumbling that exists in every professional sport. Stacked on top of each other, inside a formally documented league-wide survey, they represent something more structurally corrosive. Players telling the world, through official channels, that the day-to-day experience of playing for that franchise is not what it should be for professional football players at the highest level of the game. Beyond the locker rooms and the cafeteria grades, there is a longer conversation about what it costs a player to exist inside the NFL, one that does not appear on any report card, but shapes how players think about the league and the alternatives around it. The NFL remains the only major American professional sports league where contracts are not fully guaranteed by default. A basketball player signs a 4-year deal and receives every dollar, whether he performs, gets injured, or is traded. A baseball player is protected by the same logic. An NFL player signs a 4-year deal and, in most cases, is one roster cut away from being owed nothing beyond whatever signing bonus was structured into the agreement. The average NFL career lasts approximately 3.3 years, which means the majority of players in the league at any given moment are working under contracts that could evaporate before the ink has fully dried on their mortgage paperwork. The physical cost runs parallel to the financial one. The long-term consequences of repeated head trauma, documented through decades of concussion research and the legal settlements that followed, have reshaped how current and former players calculate the value of a career in the NFL. Younger players entering the league now carry an awareness of what the game can take from them in the decades after they retire that previous generations simply did not have. That awareness does not stop players from choosing football, but it changes the calculation when the alternative is a spring league or a Canadian league offering a shorter season, a less punishing physical schedule, and in some cases, comparable pay relative to what a depth player in the NFL would earn on a minimum contract. For players sitting at the margins of NFL rosters, these are not abstract concerns. They are the arithmetic of a career. Here's what the report card has accomplished that decades of previous NFL labor relations never managed. It has made the experience of playing for an NFL franchise publicly measurable. It has turned locker room sentiment into a documented, published, citable grade. And it has done this at precisely the moment in NFL history when players who cannot find satisfactory deals, or who are asked to play in conditions that don't reflect the money being generated around them, have somewhere real to go. The UFL is not a holding pen anymore. It is a professional football league with a collective bargaining agreement, a players' union, minimum salaries, health insurance, and a pipeline that produced 102 NFL roster players in a single offseason. The CFL is not a punchline. It is a league with over a century of professional football history that actively pursues NFL players, holds their rights, and picks up the phone when a second-round pick with 2,261 receiving yards can't get an NFL deal. Whenever the players give a voice, it's important because they're giving an honest opinion about what should be changed organizationally, said Los Angeles Rams safety and NFLPA representative Quentin Lake, speaking on the report card's significance. He was not describing a protest. He was describing an information system that had become, for the first time in NFL history, genuinely consequential. The NFL's own management council felt the weight of it. The NFL Management Council filed a grievance against the NFLPA over the publication of the report cards, challenging the characterizations of team ownership on legal grounds. An arbitrator's ruling confirmed that the complaints listed, including the specific criticisms against the Jets, Cardinals, and Panthers, were part of the official record. The legal challenge did not erase the grades. It confirmed that the grades existed, that the owners had been paying close enough attention to pursue litigation over them, and that the words of 1,695 players about the people who employed them had hit their mark with enough force to warrant a legal response. The players had gone on record. The owners had gone to their lawyers. And in the middle of it all, the UFL was quietly putting 44 players onto NFL rosters, while the CFL was picking up the phone to call Chase Claypool and placing Trey Lance on a negotiation list. The market for professional football talent was not monopolized the way it once was, and the owners most exposed by their own players' assessments were the ones who had the most to lose from that fact. The new frontier and what the numbers actually say. Here is the number that reframes this entire conversation: 102. That is how many spring football league players were on NFL rosters at the start of the 2025 season, drawn from the UFL's 2024 and 2025 seasons, and from the XFL and USFL years before the merger. Not tryout invitees sitting on the edge of a practice field in late July. Not players waiting by the phone. Active roster members and official practice squad contributors who had gone through the UFL's full competitive season, stood under a different set of stadium lights, and fought their way back into the most financially powerful football league in the world. That number did not exist 5 years ago. The architecture to produce it did not exist. Previous spring football leagues, the XFL in its first incarnation, the original USFL, NFL Europe, had each, in their own way, been swatted aside by the NFL's gravitational pull. Teams folded. Contracts went unpaid. Rosters evaporated. Players who had bet their careers on an alternative came away with nothing but the knowledge that the NFL was the only game in town. The UFL has changed that calculation in a way that its predecessors never could. By August 2025, the league had conducted 144 workouts involving 86 individual players, with 45 of them signing NFL contracts in a single offseason cycle. The Detroit Lions, the most aggressive franchise in mining the UFL pipeline, had signed 8 former UFL players from the 2025 cycle alone, more than any other franchise. This is not a scouting experiment. This is a roster-building strategy. This is a franchise run by one of the most respected front offices in the NFL, treating the UFL as a legitimate and productive developmental resource. The success stories are the proof of concept, and they have moved from remarkable to expected. Brandon Aubrey's journey from undrafted free agent to USFL Birmingham Stallion to Cowboys starter to the holder of the NFL record for the most career field goals from 60 yards or beyond is not a story about luck. It is a story about a player who used the infrastructure of a professional spring league to develop into something the NFL's own scouting apparatus never predicted. No team drafted him. No team gave him a camp invitation in his draft year. A different league gave him a stage, and on that stage, he became the most accurate long-distance kicker in NFL history. Cavante Turpin went from USFL MVP to 3 consecutive Pro Bowl selections in Dallas, the first Cowboys player ever named to the Pro Bowl as a designated return specialist. He is one of the most dangerous special teams weapons in the game, in large part because a spring football league was willing to put the ball in his hands when the NFL wasn't looking. Jake Bates did not just make the Lions roster, he set the Lions' all-time scoring record in a single season. His 142 points broke a mark held by Jason Hanson, a man who spent 21 years in Detroit and was beloved by a fan base that does not part with its legends easily. Bates surpassed that total in 1 year, and he said it plainly. "That league did for me what it's built for," Bates said. "It's built to give people a stage, and I was able to get that stage, and without that, I'm not here." The words of a man who understood that the NFL had chosen not to give him that stage, and who found one anyway. This is precisely what should make NFL owners restless, not the existence of a competing league in the abstract, not the fact that some players every year find themselves without NFL deals. The specific thing that should keep an owner's attention, in a way that previous cycles of spring football never required, is this: the UFL is now producing players who, given a professional setting and proper coaching, outperform what the NFL's own evaluation systems projected for them. That means the evaluation systems themselves are leaving talent on the table, and the teams that pick up that talent, the Cowboys, the Lions, the Texans, are gaining a competitive edge that their less attentive counterparts are forfeiting. The CFL's role in this picture adds a different texture. The Canadian League is not trying to compete with the NFL as a destination. It is positioning itself as an option, a credible, professional, financially viable option for players who cannot find NFL homes. The machinery for holding those players' rights is already in place. CFL teams hold negotiation lists that give them formal, exclusive claim to NFL players who might at some point choose to come north. That list in 2025 included Trey Lance, Chase Claypool, Shedeur Sanders, Max Duggan, Keaton Slovis, Diego Pavia, and several others. Most of them did not end up in Canada, but the infrastructure for them to do so was fully operational, and CFL teams were actively placing calls and having conversations. So what is the final verdict on the title? Here is what the record confirms. Michael Bidwill committed to spending approximately $100 million over 3 years on a new training facility in the immediate wake of his players issuing a public D- rating to his organization and ranking it dead last in the league. If that sequence, F- facilities, public humiliation, 9-figure spending commitment within months, does not meet the definition of an owner responding under pressure, it is difficult to identify what would. The word PANICS is the editorial decision of a headline. The behavior it describes is documented. Woody Johnson received an F from his players at a 5.58 out of 10, the single lowest owner rating in the league. That grade travels into every free agency negotiation his front office will conduct until his players hand him something better. In a league where the best available players now have real professional alternatives, not theoretical ones, not failing ones, but leagues that produce 3 Pro Bowlers, a franchise scoring record holder, and 102 active roster players in a single cycle, the reputational weight of an F from your own locker room is a competitive liability. Most of the players in this story did not quit the NFL. They were cut, declined, released, or passed over. Trey Lance's option was declined. Chase Claypool was placed on injured reserve and released with a settlement. Garyon Conley and Damon Arnett could not find NFL homes and used the UFL to rebuild. They were professional athletes who needed somewhere to play and found somewhere that was willing to give them a chance. But the underlying truth, that former first-round picks, second-round picks, and Pro Bowl caliber talents have been moving through alternative leagues in numbers that the NFL cannot ignore, while certain owners have been publicly graded and publicly shamed by their own players in ways that have produced reactive 9-figure spending commitments, is not manufactured drama. It is documented, sourced, and building. The NFL's monopoly on professional football talent in North America has not collapsed, but it has, for the first time in the modern era, developed a visible crack. And the owners who have been rated most poorly by the people they employ are the ones standing closest to it. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to watch another fascinating video like this, click on one of the boxes on your screen right now.